My older sister claimed I was lazy to find a job of my own, and that I was hogging the family business, because her husband deserved to be promoted from the office manager to CEO for his infinite position, and somehow my parents agreed. So put her husband on a trial only to panic call me 3 months in, because the business is in deep trouble. Now they're trying to call me egoistic, because I told them I won't be coming back unless sister apologizes to me personally, and I complete my 6 months break. I am a 28-year-old male, and I've been running my family's logistics company since last year when my dad semi-retired. I started working there part-time at 19, full-time at 21, and eventually climbed up through every department: fleet, dispatch, vendor contracts, HR, finance, and client accounts. I did not get the CEO position handed to me. I earned it. My dad saw I knew the business inside out and trusted me to keep it running. My older sister, Rachel, 34, female, never liked that. She's never worked in the company, not even for a day. But her husband, Tyler, 36, male, had been our office manager for a few years. Office manager, meaning he handled internal memos, scheduled meetings, and sometimes dealt with minor vendor tasks. He wasn't terrible at his job, but he was never CEO material. Rachel constantly pushed the idea that Tyler deserved to run the company. She kept calling me lazy, said I did not want to grow beyond the family business, and accused me of hogging the top position. She said Tyler was more qualified because he had an MBA from some online program and was corporate-minded. Eventually, my parents started saying the same thing. They suggested I give Tyler a chance to prove himself as a leader. After months of pressure, I agreed. I stepped aside for a trial period of 3 months. Tyler became acting CEO. I did not fully walk away. I stayed on in an advisory role, watched from the side, and stayed out of his way. The first month, Tyler focused on rebranding. He renamed departments, introduced vague job titles like Team Synergy Leader and Client Happiness Officer. He held long meetings about workflow restructuring and dynamic resource shifts. Nothing actually changed in operations. Deliveries continued because our experienced staff kept things going. Second month, things started slipping. Clients called about delays. One major client, a supermarket chain that brought in nearly 20% of our revenue, terminated their contract. Tyler had tried to renegotiate it without consulting legal or ops. He added conditions that made their delivery model impossible. They left. Payroll was delayed. Vendors did not get paid on time. Our drivers started missing routes because of bad scheduling changes. Tyler had replaced our route planning software with something more modern that nobody knew how to use. Dispatchers were overwhelmed. 2 longtime managers quit after Tyler publicly called them resistant to change. Their replacements had no logistics experience. One had a background in retail and the other in graphic design. Mistakes multiplied. Routes overlapped. Fuel costs spiked. Drivers were idle between shipments, wasting time and money. Tyler also started outsourcing things unnecessarily. He brought in consultants to restructure corporate culture. They conducted staff surveys and led pointless workshops that interrupted actual work. The company paid for it all. Nothing improved. Month 3, it started crashing hard. I got a call from a vendor saying they were suspending our account due to unpaid invoices. Another said they'd received mixed delivery schedules from different people. Employees were confused about who to report to. Our HR system was mismanaged and vacation requests weren't being tracked. Clients were leaving. Staff morale was tanking. Then came the big hit. Tyler booked a 2-night retreat at a golf resort for the leadership team. Cost, $30,000. All charged to the company account. He marked it as strategic development. No one approved it. But our junior accountant said Tyler bypassed the approval process and greenlit it himself. The moment my parents saw that, they panicked. My mom called me early on a Sunday morning, said they needed me to come in. I went straight to the office. Dad was already there, and they both looked completely shaken. They asked me to look at the company's current financial state. I went over the books. We were running at a loss. Profits had dropped nearly 40%. Expenses were way up. Payments were overdue. Accounts receivable were piling up. One of our fleet contracts was 2 weeks past due, and we were about to lose 10 trucks. Worse, our warehouse insurance had lapsed because no one renewed it. I asked for more details. Turns out Tyler had delegated insurance to someone he hired recently, someone who had a background in advertising, not logistics. They did not know it was a legal necessity and missed the renewal deadline. We were uninsured for nearly a month. Any accident or theft would have ruined us. Internally, it was chaos. Several employees had already quit or given notice. Others were barely hanging on, looking for new jobs. Our dispatch team was stretched too thin, and some clients were demanding refunds or threatening legal action. I did not argue. I did not say I told you so. I just got to work. I pulled up old client records, reached out to the supermarket chain, apologized, and offered a revised deal. I had to take a loss to repair the relationship, but it was better than losing them forever. I reviewed contracts, restored our original scheduling system, and rehired 2 experienced temp managers to help. I got in touch with the leasing company, negotiated a payment plan, and stopped the truck repossession. I also personally called the insurance broker and got the warehouse covered immediately. All of this within 5 days of being back. Rachel still insisted that Tyler just needed more time and said the damage wasn't his fault. She said I had undermined him from the start and claimed that the company would have been fine if I hadn't hovered. She even told my parents that I set him up to fail. But the numbers did not lie. The company was weeks away from being cash flow negative. We would have needed to dip into our family trust or take out emergency loans if it continued another month. Tyler went back to a smaller role. I did not fire him. I just moved him where he could do less harm. Rachel wasn't happy about it. She stopped coming to family events. Said I betrayed them. After I returned to clean up, I stayed an extra 2 weeks to make sure things wouldn't collapse again the moment I stepped out. But I did not intend to stay longer than that. I needed my break. I'd been working nonstop for years, and this whole thing only added more pressure. So, I wrapped things up and told the board, which again is mostly just my parents, that I was resuming my break as originally planned. I was clear that I'd be available for emergencies and could be contacted if anything urgent came up, but I wasn't coming back full time until the 6 months were over. That's when everything flipped again. At first, my parents acted understanding. They agreed that I deserved time away and thanked me for fixing things. But as the days passed, the tone shifted. They began saying things like, the company still needs stable leadership and it was reckless to leave during a vulnerable recovery period. They told me I shouldn't abandon the company. Now, when I reminded them it was their idea for me to take time off in the first place, they brushed it off. Then they asked me to just come in part-time to support Tyler again. Apparently, he was still acting CEO. And despite all that happened, Rachel was lobbying hard to give him a second chance, saying this time he'd follow guidance. I said no firmly. I made it clear that if Tyler was staying in any leadership capacity, I wasn't coming back until my break was over. And I added something else. I told them I wouldn't even consider returning until Rachel apologized to me personally. Not over text, not through our parents, not as a vague comment thrown out in conversation, but an actual direct apology for everything. For the name-calling, for the false accusations, for undermining me, and for standing behind the disaster she helped create. That's when the real drama started. Suddenly, I was being called egoistic. My mom said I was holding a grudge. My dad said I needed to be the bigger person and that family should come before pride. Rachel unsurprisingly said I was making it all about myself. She called me a child who was throwing a tantrum over hurt feelings, ignoring the fact that she spent the last year attacking my work and pushing to replace me with someone who nearly ruined the business in under 90 days. They kept trying to guilt me into softening my stance. My dad told me the business was still in a delicate state and needed my oversight to stay afloat. My mom reminded me that Rachel was still family and it wasn't worth it to let a personal disagreement create division. They all acted like I was being unreasonable for expecting a simple apology before returning to a company I had kept alive for years. What they refused to acknowledge was how deep this went. Rachel did not just make a mistake. She launched a personal campaign against me. She painted me as incompetent, lazy, and selfish for months. She used her influence with our parents to push me out. Then after her husband wrecked things, she never took responsibility. She never said, "Thank you" when I came in to fix it. She never admitted she was wrong. In fact, she still acts like I set him up to fail. It's not about the apology itself. It's about accountability. Everyone around me wants me to move on. But no one wants to admit they were wrong. I am not demanding some dramatic public gesture or for her to beg on her knees. I just want her to say it, that she was wrong, that she treated me unfairly. She put the business and our relationship at risk because of her ego. That's it. And if that's too much to ask, then fine. I'll finish my break in peace. The more I stood my ground, the worse it got. The extended family got involved. My aunt called to tell me the family harmony is more important than pride. My uncle said I should be grateful I even got the CEO position in the first place. My cousin, who has no stake in the business at all, said it was immature to demand apologies in a family setting. No one mentioned what actually happened. No one acknowledged the months I spent working as hard as possible while Rachel played politics from the sidelines. They framed the whole thing like I was punishing the family for a minor disagreement when in reality I was the one who was punished from the start for doing my job too well. Apparently Rachel still refuses to say anything. In fact, she doubled down. She told our parents that I was trying to humiliate her and was only doing this to prove a point. She said I was manipulative and that I always wanted to control everything and that the business would be better off if I left for good. She has somehow spun this situation so far that now she's the victim in her mind. Tyler has said nothing since I stepped back out. He's back in the office manager role, but I heard he's still trying to be involved in big decisions. The staff does not respect him anymore, and a few key employees are reportedly looking for jobs elsewhere. I gave the board a full transition plan with systems in place and warned them that if Tyler started changing things again, it would fall apart quickly. They asked me to help guide him through it remotely and I said no again. I told them if they want him involved, I am out until my 6 months are done. And I won't reconsider anything unless Rachel apologizes. Not because I want power, not because I want revenge, but because this family has a history of sweeping things under the rug and pretending everything's fine when it's not. I am not doing that anymore. I'm done being the one who keeps the peace by keeping quiet. I have been patient. I've been calm. I fixed the mess. I stepped back when asked. Now all I'm asking for is basic respect and accountability. If they think that makes me egoistic, so be it. But I am not coming back early and I'm not accepting anything less than what I've asked for. Am I the asshole for refusing to return to the business until my sister apologizes and I finish my break as planned? Update 1. So, remember how I said I wasn't coming back to the business until Rachel apologized and I finished my 6-month break? Well, things have taken a very spicy turn. At first, I thought everyone would eventually calm down and let the business run in peace until I returned. I left behind clear systems, a smooth chain of command, and documentation for anything critical. I even gave my dad a list of warning signs to watch for in case things started slipping again. But instead of respecting that boundary, Rachel decided to double down. I started hearing little things through the grapevine. Texts from former coworkers, quiet messages from managers I trusted. Tyler had started calling informal leadership huddles again. He was testing new ideas to streamline ops. Rachel was showing up at the office more often, even though she doesn't technically have a role there. Then one of the senior drivers reached out privately. He said Rachel had been asking questions about my past decisions, like why I had declined a particular contract last year or why I hired a particular dispatch lead instead of promoting someone internal. Apparently, she was collecting notes and asking the staff if they ever felt overruled or micromanaged by me. She framed it like a leadership review, but it was obvious what she was doing, digging for dirt. Then came the kicker. A week ago, the company website was updated. I wasn't notified, which is already shady. I checked it out and noticed the About Us section had been rewritten. My name was still there, but listed under founding leadership as if I was some legacy figure, not the active CEO. Tyler was listed as current operations executive and there was a new paragraph claiming the company was now embracing a new era of progressive leadership. No mention of me being on a planned break. No mention of me at all. That pissed me off, but I didn't react right away. I waited and kept gathering information. What I found out next was worse. Rachel had apparently contacted one of our longtime clients, a freight forwarding company we have worked with for years, and suggested that I was stepping away for mental health reasons and that the company was transitioning away from old leadership. She implied that I wasn't coming back. That client had doubts and reached out to me directly to check if everything was okay. I was stunned. It wasn't just unprofessional, it was sabotage. Rachel was actively trying to replace me while I was on an approved break. And she was using my absence to rewrite the narrative. I called my dad, asked him if he knew about any of this. He claimed he didn't. I believe him to a point, but he's been passive through this whole thing, and I'm starting to think his silence is part of the problem. He said he'd look into it. A few days later, I got a long email from my mom. It was full of concerned language. She said Rachel felt targeted and misunderstood and that maybe it was time to have a family conversation about next steps. The tone was carefully neutral. The subtext was clear. They want me to drop it. They want me to come back quietly, smooth things over, and let Rachel stay involved. Maybe even let Tyler keep a seat at the table. Instead of apologizing, Rachel's running a quiet campaign to push me out entirely. Here's the thing, I am still the CEO. I didn't resign. I didn't transfer control. Legally, I am still in charge, but she's trying to fill the vacuum with her own narrative, hoping by the time I return, the board and staff will see me as outdated or irrelevant. I have started documenting everything. Screenshots, messages, client notes, staff updates. I am not impulsive. I'm not going to storm back in and create chaos, but I am preparing for the moment I walk back through that office door. I've already started speaking quietly with the 2 external board members. They weren't looped into any of this drama and they were not happy to hear that one of the co-owners was being misrepresented while on approved leave. The best part? Rachel doesn't know. I know she's moving like she's already won, scheduling strategy sessions, showing up at business dinners with Tyler, even liking LinkedIn posts about female-driven leadership shifts in legacy business. It would almost be funny if it weren't so messy. They think I'm sitting idly. They don't know I am building the case. They don't know I have already talked to the client she tried to manipulate. They don't know that when I come back, I won't just be restoring order. I'll be deciding who stays and who goes. Update 2. Last time I posted, I told you how my older sister, Rachel, was trying to rewrite history while I was on a planned break from my family's business, the same one she tried to hijack by pushing her husband into the CEO's seat. After they nearly tanked the company, I fixed the mess and went back on break as originally agreed. I told everyone I wouldn't return unless Rachel apologized to me personally and I completed my full 6-month leave. Well, a lot has happened since then, and this update is going to be a good one. Let's just say I finally walked back in, and I did not walk in quietly. First off, I kept quiet for the rest of my break on the outside. Internally, I was tracking everything. I had a small circle of trusted employees who kept me updated. I also stayed in touch with our legal advisor and 2 external board members, people who weren't caught up in my family's internal circus. During those last 6 weeks of break, Rachel and Tyler fully leaned into their fantasy world. They were showing up to industry events as co-leaders of the company. Rachel ordered branded office notebooks with the next generation of company leadership printed on the front. She created a new mission statement without board approval, and Tyler started signing emails as Chief Vision Officer. They updated our LinkedIn page with vague statements about transitioning from legacy leadership, and even had the gall to publish a blog post about letting go of outdated ideas and making room for bold new direction. There was no mention of me at all. 0. Now legally I am still CEO. I never signed anything to change that. But Rachel was betting on something else: perception. She thought if she made it look like I was out of the picture long enough, people would stop questioning it, and some did. Vendors were confused. A couple of clients thought I'd stepped away permanently. Even one of our newer hires assumed Tyler had always been CEO. That's how far the misinformation spread. So, I made a decision. When my 6 months ended, I wasn't just going to return. I was going to reclaim what was mine. Fast forward to Monday of this week, my official return date. No prior announcement. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't warn Rachel. I didn't email Tyler. I just walked in at 8:30 a.m. like I always used to. The reactions were worth every minute of patience. Tyler was the first to see me. He literally froze mid-step outside the break room. I said nothing. Walked right past him. Rachel wasn't there yet. She likes to roll in around 10 a.m. now. Executive hours, apparently. I went straight into my office. The door still had my name on it because no one had the guts to take it off officially. I shut the door, sat down, opened my laptop, and sent a company-wide memo from my official email. Subject line: Leadership Clarification, CEO Update. It was short, clean, and factual. I reminded the entire company that I was and remained the active CEO. I stated that I had completed my planned leave and was resuming all responsibilities effective immediately. I thanked the staff for their continued work and said I would be holding one-on-ones over the next few weeks to realign goals, strategy, and team morale. No drama, no emotion, just clarity. 15 minutes later, Rachel stormed into my office. I didn't even look up at first. When I finally did, the expression on her face was something between rage, disbelief, and panic. She started ranting loudly, but I held up one finger and asked if she wanted to have this conversation here or in the boardroom. She left and slammed the door. By noon, I had a meeting with the board. My dad looked exhausted. My mom didn't say a word. The 2 external board members were ready. They already knew what was coming. I laid everything out: the unauthorized branding changes, the false narrative spread to clients and vendors, the fabricated role titles, the public misrepresentation of the company's leadership, the potential liability of decisions made without legal review, the active attempts to erase the presence and contributions of the actual CEO. Then I dropped the final piece: a file with documented examples of Rachel contacting clients and claiming I was mentally unfit to lead. That changed the whole energy in the room. Even my dad looked shaken. I closed the folder, looked at each of them, and calmly requested a board vote on 2 motions. 1. Immediate termination of Rachel's access to company systems, premises, and communication tools. 2. Reassignment of Tyler to a role with no decision-making authority, pending internal review of his conduct. The vote passed unanimously. Even my parents didn't argue this time. Rachel didn't take it well. She packed up her things that afternoon, but not before accusing me of weaponizing the board and ruining the family. Tyler didn't say a word. He just avoided eye contact and left without speaking to anyone. It was quiet the next day, a weird kind of quiet, like after a storm. And it's been peaceful ever since. I have spent the past few days reconnecting with team leaders, listening to what they've endured, and reassuring them that stability is back. The atmosphere has shifted. People are more relaxed. Even the staff that had grown used to Rachel's chaos seemed relieved. A few of them even thanked me privately. And yet, despite everything, I still haven't received an apology. Not a word from Rachel. Not a message, nothing. But honestly, at this point, I don't care. I got my company back. I didn't yell. I didn't make threats. I didn't stoop to the level she thought I would. I let her dig her own grave, and she did it with a smile and a LinkedIn post. She thought I was being egoistic for demanding an apology and honoring my own boundary. Turns out I was just being patient. Update 3. I'm back again. If you've been following along, you already know the whirlwind I have dealt with: family business, power plays, sabotage, and a sister who tried to remove me from my own company while I was on a 6-month break. I returned, cleaned house, made it clear I wasn't playing games anymore. Well, guess what? Rachel's not done. Not even close. Roughly 2 weeks after she was officially removed from the company, with no system access, no office visits, no decision-making authority, I started hearing whispers. At first, it was small stuff. A few staff members said they'd been contacted by her, just checking in to see how things were going. One of them even mentioned that she asked if they'd ever considered more innovative leadership environments. Most of them ignored her. Then it escalated. A trusted vendor called me privately and said Rachel had reached out to them with a new venture pitch. She was apparently planning to launch a logistics startup and was hoping they'd shift their partnership over. She even tried to leverage our past contracts to make it sound like she had the same connections and operational base. I thought it was just empty talk. Rachel's never worked in logistics. She barely knows what our company actually does. She was using buzzwords, vague promises, and her favorite fallback line, disrupting the old models. But then I found out something that made my jaw drop. My dad gave her money. Not just a little, either. He invested nearly $100,000 into her so-called startup. I only found out because our family accountant called me in a panic. The funds didn't come from the company's operating budget, but from my dad's personal portfolio, which wouldn't matter except that a chunk of that portfolio is tied to joint family trusts that will affect me later down the line. When I confronted my dad, he looked genuinely embarrassed. He said Rachel came to him crying, saying I had destroyed her reputation and left her unemployable and that this was her only way to rebuild. He told me he just wanted to help her feel included again. I didn't yell. I just asked if he had done any due diligence. He hadn't. Rachel is now leasing a tiny office in a commercial plaza downtown. She has no clients, no systems, no drivers, no trucks, just some interns she's probably underpaying and a Canva-made website that looks like a fake university project. She's posted on LinkedIn that her company is set to revolutionize regional delivery logistics with a tech-first mindset. And she lists herself as a founder and vision architect. It's almost laughable. But here's the thing, her startup is already creating confusion in the market. Vendors are calling us asking if the companies are affiliated. Some drivers thought we'd opened a new division. Clients are getting messages from her on behalf of a new logistics company with shared values. It's messy. Purposefully messy. This isn't about innovation. It's about revenge. She didn't get her way, so she's trying to copy-paste what we have built, hoping to hurt our reputation and maybe even lure away a few of our contracts. Except she's completely unqualified and too stubborn to realize she's setting herself up for a slow-motion crash. I have had to have our legal team send out a cease and desist regarding certain claims she made in her outreach. I've also filed trademarks to lock down every variation of our brand name just in case she tries to mimic it. My parents are split. My mom says I should just let her try and that it won't go anywhere. My dad says he regrets funding her but feels stuck. Meanwhile, Rachel's acting like she's the next Bezos. Update 4. I'm back again. If you've been following this mess, buckle up because it somehow got even dumber. So, last update, Rachel got kicked out of the family business after she tried to hijack it, dragged her husband into it, and made a total mess. I came back from my break, took over again like I was always meant to, cleaned up the chaos, and figured that was the end of it. Nope. 2 weeks after she was shown the door, I got served. She's literally suing me, like an actual lawsuit. Her claims, that I sabotaged her startup, the one she launched with our dad's money, ruined her reputation, interfered with her business opportunities, and made her unemployable. For reference, she has no clients, no working staff, they already quit, and her business was a glorified empty office with a website that went offline because she didn't pay the hosting fee. She even dragged in a private email I sent to our legal team warning them about her shady outreach. Apparently, she got it through our dad. That's now part of her evidence that I was planning to destroy her. The entire lawsuit reads like a journal entry titled "How to Blame Everyone But Me." It's paper thin and won't hold up. But still, she actually took it there. So, yeah, things got real. We responded with the full legal statement, and I didn't stop there. I issued a company-wide, client-facing press release breaking down exactly what happened, why I took back control, and how we're moving forward. Straight facts, no drama, no dragging names, just the truth. And then, plot twist, one of Rachel's unpaid interns reached out to us. Turns out she wasn't paying them, promised equity in a fake company and had no proper legal structure in place. The intern handed us internal chats and even one of her pitch decks. I kid you not, one slide was titled "Post-Dethroning Plan." You cannot make this stuff up. She literally had a plan to remove me and take the company by writing on fake buzzwords and vibes. The intern is now being protected legally, and my lawyer has already drafted a full countersuit in case Rachel tries to push forward with hers. My dad's floored. My mom is pretending none of this is happening. And Rachel's still posting visionary founder quotes on LinkedIn like she's one podcast away from a TED Talk. And here's where I am now. I've tried to be patient. I have tried to keep it clean. I gave her a chance to apologize. I gave her space. She chose to burn every bridge and throw gasoline on the ashes. Now she's about to learn that just because something is family, it doesn't mean it's untouchable. I didn't start this, but I sure am going to finish it.